This is Rob Pirie with the Coffee Runs Deep podcast, where we interview coffee farmers, coffee roasters, and we share their stories. I truly hope you enjoy the experience. What's going on with this?
Not much, man. Just everything's pretty good right now. I mean, well, we had this just storm, right? And but everything besides that, it's going good. Busy day, right?
Heck yeah, dude. So Mathias, how do you say your last name?
Sauerbrey.
Sauerbrey. Okay. And you're with the Coffee Republic. Do you own that, or that's what you started, or what?
So I started. I say that I am the owner, operator, sample packer, label maker.
Everything, huh?
Exactly.
Heck yeah, nothing wrong with that. I guess my first thing is, what does it take to start an import, type business, and then what do you do exactly? How do you make it work? Like what all goes into it?
A lot goes into it. I think that if you're going into coffee, I don't recommend that you do what I did. I don't recommend that you go into the importing side, because first of all, you require to be able to have contacts in other countries, right? Which is hard to get if you're not from that country. You also need to have, some capital to your disposition, right? To be able to buy large amounts of coffee so that, shipping becomes reasonable. And you need to just be able to distribute all this coffee. So I was lucky because being from El Salvador, my family has a farm, right? But I also know the mill owners that we, give our cherries to, they process it. They're very good friends of ours. They're located in Las Cruces, El Salvador, and I was able to talk with them, and we were able to get some coffee up here and gradually build up our volumes. But if you're going into coffee, I'd say maybe start off roasting or something of that nature. But I would also say that what I really do is I really talk to the producers in El Salvador. I bring in the coffee, I store the coffee, I deliver the coffee to coffee roasters who want to, carry our coffees, right? They try our coffees. They say, oh, I like this one. I don't like that one. So they'll buy that one.
So do you only deal with El Salvador, or?
Very interesting. Today, we actually just started doing Nicaraguan coffee.
Oh,
so,
cool.
We're connected here with other importers, and shout out to Jaime from Greenhaven Imports, who's been helping us a lot. Actually, he's been, a guiding force. And so now we're starting to carry some of his coffees and helping him out distributing those coffees to some of our clients. But yeah, for now, we've only been doing Salvadoran coffee.
Okay. So as far as that, so you move into Nicaragua, then how do you, is it the same process? You're basically shipping it the same way and stuff like that? Or are you bringing it all over to El Salvador and then shipping it that way? Like, what is your entire role? Like, are you the one booking the shipping and booking the, whatever to get it up here? And then where are you putting everything?
Okay. So, yeah. So for the Nicaraguan coffees that we do, he imports it. So he kind of does what I do. For the Nicaraguan coffees only, I deal here mostly with the clients, right? And this is just like a limited time thing, but we're kind of building up with Nicaraguan coffee. Now, what I really do is I select the coffees that we're going to bring into Canada, right? And I set up the shipping, I get all the paperwork done. I'm basically a translator for, customs, right? So that they know, okay, this is what this means, right? Like this, you need these papers. And so I basically take the coffee from the mill all the way down to the warehouse. We have a very good warehouse in Montreal. So they store our coffees there. And then the warehouse, I tell the warehouse, hey, take it to, X, Y, and Z roaster here, and they'll set that up. And it's great.
Got you. So you're mostly dealing with the mills down in El Salvador. Do you also deal with the farmers down there, or is it kind of like direct links almost?
So the way it works is sometimes the farmers will process their own coffee, right? And then they'll deliver it to the dry mill.
Gotcha.
Now, some other coffee producers, like my family, we don't do our own processing. We give the cherries, right? We deliver those cherries to the mill. The mill will take those cherries and they will process it. Now, this is much better because then the mill, they'll find the buyers for the coffee instead of having the individual producers trying to find buyers, right? And so it's much more efficient. And so the mill is one-stop shop. They wet process it, they dry process it, they export it, they do everything, and they find the buyers, and that's how it really works. That's
Gotcha. Is it hard for the farmers to kind of find a market for their coffee down there?
so the mill is mostly responsible for that. And I mean, there will always, sometimes maybe there'll be some, coffee left over that didn't sell, right? So that coffee, that's very good quality coffee, like extremely good, same quality, right? It'll usually sell at the C market price, right? At the commodity price. And so yeah, there is sometimes leftover coffee. I mean, I don't think that, the mill is complaining that they have too many clients, right?
Yeah.
But I think that, a new customer can't help, can't hurt, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. So as far as the farmers, like, what does their lifestyle kind of look like down in El Salvador? Because I know different locations. I just spoke to somebody from Ecuador, and I mean, it seems like it's pretty different compared to what like Honduras or something is. So, what does it kind of look like for El Salvador?
So the lives of coffee farmers will look very differently depending on what kind of coffee farmer you are, right? So if you're a small coffee, and that will even depend maybe on the region. So up north in El Salvador, near the border with Honduras and Guatemala, there's a region called Chalatenango, and there's only smallholder farms there. And so they'll have their house in maybe the city, right? And then they'll go to their to their farmhouse, right? And they'll have their little farm, maybe 5-10 hectares, whatever. And but if you're a larger farmer, it's a lot easier, right? It's like your life will you probably won't live in your farm, you'll probably live in San Salvador or the city. And you'll kind of go there sometimes, right? But you probably won't live there.
Gotcha. So, as a coffee importer, what are some of the struggles you face down there? And like, what's your overall goal with El Salvador? Like, what are you trying to kind of accomplish down there?
Well, I think that, the struggles of being a coffee importer is obviously sometimes, people saying, oh, okay, well, this coffee's not good, right? Or not being able to select, the coffees that you want, right? Or, having troubles with delays, right? And, this happened, with the freight forwarder, right? Or, the warehouse, is delayed, right? Those are mainly my, you know, obstacles.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot of logistical type of issues.
yeah, well, it's mostly kind of like what we do, right? And so a lot of the logistical issues in warehouses, I mean, sometimes they can be a pain. But when it comes to, what we want to accomplish is it goes back to the idea of the Coffee Republic.
Yeah.
And the Coffee Republic, it's the name of my company, but it was also a term used to describe El Salvador from 1967 to 1927 or 21. And it was this idea of the country being built on coffee building roads, coffee building airports and cities, and coffee improving the average life of the average Salvadoran, right? And I think that the average Salvadoran today is still better off because of coffee. So if coffee didn't exist, the life of the average Salvadoran would not be as good.
Got you.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, that's what we're trying to accomplish. Give those producers who already have great coffees, access to these markets that are willing to pay higher prices, that would love to have these coffees in their stores, and making sure that they have access to that, right? And you got to start somewhere, but eventually, those volumes they build up. And
Yeah. So as far as your company then, the Coffee Republic, you got your name from El Salvador being a republic. Is it still a republic, like a democracy, or
yeah.
how's y'all's government set up down there?
Yeah, so it's a unitary so it's a monocameral republic. So there's one legislative house, and then there's a president, and right, so it's your typical republic, a legislative, judicial, and executive branch, right? And each one has similar roles, right? So the legislative, they make the laws, the executive, they enforce the laws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
Okay.
it's still a republic.
Gotcha. All right. As far as like selling price and pricing coffee, do you determine what the coffee farmer gets, or is that the mill? And then who determines like what you pay, or do you get some kind of fluctuation on what you kind of bid at? How's that kind of work?
So it works by the mill will set an asking price, right? And so the mill sets the price on a variety of factors, some including what other countries are selling their really high-end coffees at, their costs in El Salvador, right? Um, and they also do it based on the C market price. How high is the C market price? So there's a variety of factors that they put into their asking price and say, okay, well, we think that this bag of coffee is worth $2.80 a pound. And so what we say is, yeah, I think that's fair price. And if not, we'll say, hey, it's kind of high, so we'll negotiate, we'll reach an agreement, and then, we export the coffee.
So you don't have to really purchase at what they're saying. You can bid it down if you want or something like that.
Yeah, you can negotiate down the price, but I personally, like, the Coffee Republic has never bidded down a price.
Yeah.
We've never done that. We have always paid the asking price that the mill has sent us.
Yeah.
So we won't pay because we think it's a fair price, and it's a fair price because of how they determine it. And yeah, we think it's.
Yeah. And not so much you, I was asking. I guess I was just trying to wrap my head around, like, other importing companies. So they can bid it down if they don't like what the mill is kind of like asking then.
Well, yeah. And the thing is that, it's not just, the price, right? It's like, okay, well, how much are they buying, right?
Yeah.
So if they buy, if
So you might have a quantity discount if you buy so much.
Exactly.
Okay.
So say, you buy 5 bags, you're probably not going to get any,
Yeah.
But if you're buying 50, the mill say, well, yeah, that's great. Get it off our hands and we'll go on our way. And yeah, that's, but.
So who determines what the coffee farmer gets paid then? Is that the mill?
So the mill will usually, say, okay, well, you hand it over, your cherries, right? So we process them. Okay, so the wet process costs, 40 cents a pound. The dry milling costs, maybe 10 cents a pound. So it's 50 cents a pound to process the coffee. And then, by the way, this coffee sold at, $2.80. So we'll subtract or cut, the 50 cents a pound, and, you keep the $2.30 a pound.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are some taxes, fees involved in that. And obviously the cost of production, fertilizers, fungicides, shade management. So eventually, right, there's a lot to pay with that.
Do the farmers ever kind of ask or specify what they want to get, or is that not common to really do that? You're kind of at the mercy of the mill, basically.
No, the thing is that most mills, well, there's two kinds of coffee, right? You have your gourmet, well, that's what we call them in El Salvador, gourmet coffee, which is like the red plum cherries, and then you also have the commercial coffee.
Gotcha.
So if you have a low altitude farm, maybe planted with some Sarchimor or Catimor, you're going to get the C market price. It's unlikely that you'll get a specialty coffee price because
Gotcha.
quality is just not there. But if you have a high altitude farm, planted with a good varietal, say Bourbon or Pacas or Catuai, and you hand over ripe cherries, you're probably going to get a better price because the coffee just has more value.
Yeah, because a lot of people, are always talking about like how to, I guess, pay farmers more, and I've always kind of thought about like what part of the process, where would that be? Would it be the mills paying more? Would it be the importers paying more? Like, who would initially make that first investment and then make everybody else kind of pay accordingly up from there?
So yeah, I think it starts off with the importers, and I think that we shouldn't just say we need to pay the farmers more. I don't think that that's the approach that you need to take. I think that you need to say we need to pay the farmers what their coffee is worth, right?
Gotcha.
So I don't think soybean farmers should get paid more. I believe that soybeans farmers should get paid what their soybeans are worth.
Gotcha.
Now, who determines that worth, is subjective, right? So value is subjective. And so if you increase, the idea of value of that coffee, then eventually it'll get down to the producer, right?
Yeah.
And so, for example, now you're seeing, like, it's not uncommon to see a $70 a pound coffee winning the Cup of Excellence. So
Right.
in Salvador, a 70, like 1 pound of coffee was sold for 70 pounds. In Panama, it was 4,000 pounds, $4,000 per pound. Why? Because people determined that the value of that coffee was 4,000 pound, $4,000.
Yeah.
And so if you increase, if you get people, talking and introduce them to even better and better and better coffee, and you get higher quality coffee, eventually, in theory, the money should come to the producer. More money should come to the producer.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to think of it, because a lot of times you hear a lot of people, I know in the States and probably up in Canada too, kind of talking about how, that the farmers are kind of marginalized and maybe underappreciated and stuff like that, not paid what they're supposed to be paid. But that definitely kind of makes sense, where you're not just paying them to pay them more, you're paying them to increase the value, increase the, quality of the coffee, basically.
It's not a charity. Like coffee farming, like we don't do this because, thank you for your charity.
Yeah.
Like business, we're business people, right? And so, but the thing is that for too long, the system has been just kind of abused, right? And I think that it's kind of been set in a way that coffee producers, especially in Central America, cannot thrive. And so, for example, different producers, so producing a pound of coffee in El Salvador is going to be different than producing a pound of coffee in Brazil. So, for example, if you in Brazil, it's way cheaper. Like, you can actually make money. Like, a coffee producer in Brazil can make money, off the sea market price, right? Because they're mechanized, right? So they use trucks. They don't have so much, labor, and they can actually do it. While in Central America, we're not mechanized. We grow our coffee on volcanoes, so you can't, get too many machines there. We have shade. So it's much more expensive to produce a pound of coffee there.
What's the average farm size down there? Because I think Brazil has some pretty large farms. I mean, I'm sure they have economies of scale kind of working for them too. Where my Ecuadorian friend I just talked to, I think their farm was about 2.5 hectares or something like that. So it was pretty small what they were kind of dealing with. Is it kind of the same way in El Salvador, mostly smaller kind of farms? Or is it like kind of bigger farms that are kind of doing the coffee producing?
It's really, all sizes, right? So, like, you'll have, small farmers, 5 hectares to, you know 250, 300, basically.
And as far as an importer, are you focusing on any specific farms or specific regions? Do you have that control to pick?
So, the mill will be located in the region, right? So there's kind of like growing regions.
Yeah.
So we're in the Santa Ana volcano in the Apaneca mountain range, right? Which is the biggest coffee producing region in El Salvador. Like, that's where, like, the coffee comes from, right? Now, I work with the mill there because that's where our farm is at. Now, you could choose to work in another region. However, that is, that involves going to another mill, talking to different producers, right? It's more complicated. But right now we're focusing on Apaneca. Um, and it's a very old region. Like, like here's how I say it. When you think of Guatemala, what do you think of? You think of Antigua. When you think of Costa Rica, what do you think of? Think of Tarrazú or Central Valley. When you think of Colombia, you think of Huila, right? Nariño. But when you think of El Salvador, you think of Apaneca y Lamatepec, right? That's the region of El Salvador. And so that's where we work with currently.
Gotcha. Okay. So as far as I know, one thing that a lot of people up here are kind of thoughtful about, and I've had a lot of people ask me to kind of include it in the questions, as far as like environmentally friendly and like you know pesticides and stuff like that. Do you try to work with farmers that are not using that, or is it kind of just a standard? Everybody kind of does it the same way down there, or how does that kind of work?
So 90% of coffee in El Salvador is shade grown. So we use our shade trees to, protect our coffee plants. Coffee is a very delicate plant, right? So that in itself is very good for the environment, because it's good for migratory birds. It's good for keeping water, right? It preserves our forests. Now, when it comes to pesticides and things like that, that's a very difficult question, whether or not you should use pesticides, because, especially now in the age of rust, coffee leaf rust, it has an ability to wipe out,
Yeah.
coffee farms like you have no idea. And so when you say, oh, well, all coffee should be organic, all coffee should have no pesticides, you're saying, okay, well, if you have rust, good luck.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the wrong way to approach it. And so now I think that, chemicals, like you need to use, the desired chemicals, the right chemicals, and the chemicals that, are environmentally friendly, right? And that, can coexist with an environment. And so chemicals are not necessarily a bad thing, right? Everything that we know of is made of chemicals, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
just about using them properly.
As far as the programs and stuff down there, such as like the Rainforest Alliance and or organic, like what you were just talking about, is that helpful down there? Most of those type of programs, or do most farmers participate, or is it kind of something that a lot of them don't participate in?
Now, most farmers don't participate in Rainforest Alliance or
Is it
organic.
something they should, you think, or
um, I don't know, because I don't know if there's going to be any actual, benefits,
yeah,
any material benefits to it. I think that, those like fair trade and Rainforest Alliance have just gotten too big and too corporatized, and I do not know, or I am unsure of, if there will be any material benefits to the environment and to our coffee producers.
yeah? It's kind of leading to my next question. And so, do you focus on any of that whenever you're importing? Do you look at trying to import Rainforest Alliance or any type of special programs that that the farmers are kind of partnered with?
No, because it is irrelevant to whether we are going to buy that coffee, because we are beyond Rainforest Alliance. All of our coffee farms have shade. They're like, just the fact that you're growing coffee is good for the environment, and so there's really no need for Rainforest Alliance.
Yeah,
um there is a need for, making sure that the producers are getting paid a fair price. Now you would say, well, then you should partner up with fair trade and make sure that your coffees are fair trade certified. But we pay so much more over the fair trade price that a coffee producer would lose money if we were to pay them the fair trade price,
yeah,
because
yeah. I've heard that in other regions too.
yeah, like a coffee producer would just like lose money. And so we say, forget about, Rainforest Alliance, forget about, let's just, you and I, we'll deal, we'll come to an agreement. And I think that, you're like, I think that we paid this year, I think that we were paying about 2 to 3 times over the C market price. So and way over the fair trade price. So it doesn't really make sense for us to bring in those things into our business.
Yeah. Well, moving into the Coffee Republic, then, how much coffee do y'all? I don't know if it's like a month. Like, how much would you bring in a month or even a year? Like, how much y'all purchasing?
So last year, we brought in 15 bags of coffee.
15.
Yeah, 15.
Okay.
This year we brought in 126.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we're building up, and next year we're hoping on bringing in, much more, because
Yeah.
we're growing. So, I think that you start off small. You got to start off small, right? Make sure that you know what you're doing, and we're currently building our volumes up, and eventually we'll be dealing in much greater quantities than what we are in right now.
Yeah. No, that's super cool, dude. And honestly, like that's what I kind of like focusing on too. Like, I like seeing the small roasters, the small coffee importers, the small farmers, just like out there, just making coffee work. And it's just super cool to kind of see that. And like, do you mind me asking how old you are?
So yeah, so I'm 18 basically. I'm 18.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, you're doing all this and you're only 18?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. Man, I did not have my head on my shoulders at 18. So that's super cool, dude. Um, man, dude, you actually have a lot of knowledge for just being 18, dude. I figured you was a lot older.
No,
Not
no,
looking by any means, but definitely a lot older and like how you're speaking and stuff like that. So
no. No, I mean, I like look, I mean, if you're gonna do this, like you gotta know your stuff, right?
yeah.
It's like your clients, they're not gonna teach you how to run your business.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you put a
They're gonna tell you what you did wrong for sure, but
exactly, they're
that's
gonna
it.
say, well, it's like for
Yeah.
example, like if you put your coffee right now at like 375 a pound, which is Canadian, right? That's low here. They're gonna say, well, 375 a pound. If you put it at at the right price, they're going to tell you, well, we'll buy it. But like, they're not going to say, oh, you need to put your price higher. It's like,
Yeah.
they're not going to say that. So you got to know your stuff, and you got to know what you're talking about. And I think that part of the little success that I've had and that we've had is I think that my customer service was always really good. I mean, I would always take my customers' calls. I knew the product really well, and I think that I'm always willing to learn. And I think that the key to why I think we've been doing as well as we've been doing.
Yeah. So how did you form it? Like, how did you start it? Like, what was your first thing? I mean, you had to just get a business license or whatever and just you started buying coffee. How did you like, I mean, I know you have like family and stuff in El Salvador, but did you have to get like licenses down there to become an importer or is it just through Canada?
No. So through Canada is mainly it. Like you don't need a license to import from El Salvador. So
Gotcha.
right. So here, we had to register a company. We had to get some permission, CF Canadian Food Inspection Agency. But it's really, I mean, it's opening a business is like on paper, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
It's like you can register your business in 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Pay your little fee and then get your little LLC thing and you're good. But
I don't even think you need to pay a fee. I think it
yeah,
will
down here, I think you got to pay like $100 to get like the LLC or something. I'm sure it like varies wherever you go, but
bucks
you
to
know,
register a company is.
yeah, that's super cool, man. So, what was your first conversation then with the coffee mill? How did you start that up?
Um, funnily, WhatsApp. I sent him a message and I'm like, hey, we're thinking of starting this. We work with the Salvadorian family down there, and so, we did it, and yeah, they helped us out a lot.
So, your family down there, is it just like is it your parents that own the farm, or is it like
My
a
grand,
group of your parents?
my grandparents, yeah.
Are you grandparents? Okay.
So yeah, my grandmother owns it, and my grandfather he manages it. Basically, he administers it.
What's your family look like up there then? Do you have like uncles and stuff? Does everybody kind of work on the farm, or do they do other things?
No, so you can't really make your life out of coffee. You need to have other sources of income. So having a farm is probably going to be like a side project, right? That you do, or something that you keep doing because your family has always done it. But
Yeah.
you don't say, "I am a coffee farmer for a living." Nobody does that. Nobody, and not anymore. And my grandfather is a doctor. My grandmother was a teacher, and they did the coffee thing on the side, right? And
Yeah.
it's family kind of thing.
So do you buy directly from your grandparents' farm now, or do you still have to kind of go through a coffee mill to get there? Yeah, because you said they just pick cherries and then
Yeah.
okay, gotcha.
So yeah, you got to go through them, but I mean, like you're dealing with them, right? Like we
Yeah,
sell the price that we want as like, and so it's really we basically don't.
yeah. That's pretty cool. Would you ever get into I guess more the front end of coffee, or I guess the back end, whichever way you kind of thinking about it. Would you ever open up a little shop and start, kind of open a coffee shop or anything, start roasting, or just kind of stick more to the importing?
I think that you got to know your place, and I think that I'm really good at importing.
Dude, heck yes, bruh. That like you got to know your place. That's something that a lot of people it takes a long time. And dude, I'm still like trying to figure out like, wait, should I even be doing this? Like so wow, I can't believe you're actually
Well,
are thinking like that at this point. That's cool.
it's like well, the thing is that you want to do everything, right? Like when you get
Yeah.
excited about an idea, it's like, you
Yeah.
want and the vision is, I'm gonna, buy a coffee farm in Honduras, and then I'm gonna import it, and then I'm gonna roast it and sell it, and it's like, okay, slow down there, okay? This is what you're gonna do. Right now you can import, all right, and do that and do it well, and then maybe if the opportunity presents itself, maybe you can move into something else.
Yeah.
But now, do importing. That's what I tell myself.
That's cool. So you kind of moved into Nicaragua a little bit. Are you planning to go to Guatemala and kind of expand out, or you just keep it to that little region right there, or what's your plans now?
So the plan is to keep doing importing and doing it well. But I think that right now it's just I'm always going to be focused on Salvador coffee, because Salvadoran coffee is like who we are, right? But I think that eventually Honduras is a very interesting origin. I think that Guatemala is also a very interesting origin, and I think Nicaragua is also a very interesting origin.
So how do you plan to, and I don't mean this in a bad way at all, but like how do you plan to compete with like cafe imports and like the bigger, like what's your advantage? Besides, I mean, you got family and stuff down there. You definitely know the country more. So you kind of have that advantage. But what separates you from say cafe imports, Royal or something like that?
Yeah, as I said before, know your product really well, have
Yeah.
good customer service, and when your clients call, pick up the phone. And I think that a lot of our success is that we sit down with our customers and we talk to them, right? And because it's like when you order from cafe imports, and nothing against cafe imports has some amazing coffees from
Yeah.
all over the world, like nothing against them, but like they're not like in your community, right?
Right.
And so like you sit down, and so like for example, Monogram Coffee Roasters, our first clients ever. We sit down with them, and we'll have coffee and with Graham and Monica and the owners, and we'll talk and we'll chat and we'll talk about El Salvador and coffee here and this and that, and you don't have that with cafe imports.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's always about remembering where it's always about remembering where you come from, and giving your clients the time of day, and speaking with them, and just being a good provider and supplier.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. And I think also, especially since you kind of have the El Salvadorian roots and tailoring a lot of your imports from there, I've noticed too, like if you really are relatable and really put yourself out there as kind of like your brand and stuff, I really feel that, you can compete on a different level than what these larger companies can, because they can't get as relatable as you can, with El Salvadorian coffee and stuff like that. It's like you're saying, you sit down and talk with the owners. Like, I highly doubt whoever is the owner of Cafe Imports is probably doing that with, um,
Yeah.
smaller roasters, So that's pretty cool.
No, it's I think that it's my advice to anybody that's getting into this business is, especially importing, it's know your product really well, you know, um, and have good customer service. And when your clients call, pick up the phone,
Pick up the
right?
phone, huh?
Pick up the phone and
Heck
have a
yeah.
chat. Slow down, talk to them. Don't just sell them coffee and disappear.
What's your next goal then? So so you're operating at a warehouse. So you buy the coffee, you bring it to a warehouse up in Montreal.
Mm.
Um, would you ever like have your own warehouse type place, or would that be something in the future? Is that like what size are you planning to get to, or what's your goal there?
So it doesn't really make sense unless you hit a certain volume, right? So you need to hit a certain volume for having a warehouse to make sense. But here in I don't know how it is in the States, but the coffee warehouses here in Canada that are like our warehouse, GBH Depot in Montreal, they only do coffee. That's all they do.
Oh
And
wow.
so, yeah, and so they're very specialized with that. So like I really don't have a need to open like a warehouse, and like it would be an expense. It doesn't make financial sense.
Yeah, I've been to the wharfs down in New Orleans, and you walk in and it's like it's open to the air, which we're humid down here. So I mean it's like, but they have like corn and wheat and like all this other stuff, and like coffee's way up on these racks, and it's just like, okay. I mean, I don't know how controlled environment this is, but pay them the money. You don't know what you're doing at the time, pay them the money and leave. So yeah, is so the warehouse you're storing it in, it's all like climatized, I imagine, and stuff like that then, or
Yeah, no, it's a very nice warehouse. I think it's relatively new. I think it's like built in like 2018.
okay.
So it's really like a very modern warehouse. They manage a lot of coffee. They know what they're doing, and yeah, they're great. Really, shout out to them.
So say I'm a coffee roaster and I have a little roaster and stuff, and I want to buy your coffee. I just give you a call, and then you basically give me the contact to the warehouse, or do you just schedule, or do you do all that and just send it to me?
No, 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 no. So what happens is, let's say you're a coffee roaster, right? And so I'll say, hey, Rob, what are you looking for, right? So what kind of coffees are you looking for? And you say, okay, well, I want this. I'm looking for a really chocolatey coffee to replace a Guatemala that I already have. Okay, all right. So I think what I'll do is, I'll go into my coffee inventory. I'll say, I think, Rob might like this semi-washed bourbon. I'll send him samples of this one, a washed bourbon, and then I have this, nice natural Catuai that I think he might enjoy, but he probably won't buy. So I'll package the samples up. I'll send them over to you. You taste them. Say, I really like this washed bourbon. So basically, then you say, hey, I want to order some. I'll contact the warehouse. The warehouse will deliver it to you, and then you pay, right?
So the only person I'd be dealing with would basically be you then. I wouldn't be dealing with the warehouse or anything else. Okay.
The warehouse is my
Yeah.
responsibility, basically.
Gotcha. So then as far as like quality control and stuff like that, do you have a roaster up there or a sample type roasting thing that you do? Or how do you cup coffee and stuff like that pretty often, or how does that work?
So I mean, I kind of know my way around a coffee cupping. Like I can cup some coffees, but we're trying to get a right now. We're looking for a sample coffee roaster, and so right now we're still looking at some Mikawas,
Yeah.
which are probably the best option, right? And so currently, what I'll do is we'll just kind of select the coffees from El Salvador, see what's good, and we'll send them out to our clients still in the green form, right? Because that way they can roast it to their preference, and they can run multiple roasts, and then that's how. But we're not doing any roasting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know how y'all did the quality control checks and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, the quality control it's like you're really not gonna like when you have a good supplier and you trust them and say, hey, listen, right? Like you're not gonna come in, with phenol and cough, like a phenol defect, right?
yeah.
And so as long as you know who you're supplying with, you can build that trust and make sure that what you're bringing in is good quality.
Do they cup at the mills? Like so the mill you buy from are do they kind of sample roast and cup down there as well, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, they got to know what they're selling, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
so
what I was wondering. So kind of how does that work? How do you know what you're buying down there?
right. So I mean, here I didn't really have too much option this year because I was only buying from my farm.
Yeah.
But so basically, they will cup it, and sometimes they'll say, hey, this blend right here that we have, it's tasting like bergamot and jasmine and banana, and then this one here is tasting like chocolate. Sometimes they'll do that. Sometimes they won't. Different mills will different in how they operate. Now, that's what we did this year. We asked, hey, can you give them a cup and send us the cupping notes? And yeah, we thought they were pretty good coffees.
That's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah, I always kind of wondered like I knew some mills did because I've seen some like out in Kenya and stuff do it and stuff like that, but I didn't know because everybody's so different. Every like country you kind of talk to, like how it's kind of different. So, do y'all kind of roast y'all's own coffee down there, or anything, or do they drink coffee? Because I
Yeah,
know some places like drink coffee, and then some of them kind of don't. And
Kenya. Kenya is a good example of that. They don't drink
yeah,
coffee. They drink tea. But they
yeah,
grow amazing coffee.
yeah. So, does El Salvador drink coffee? And if y'all do, like what's the brew type that y'all kind of mostly brew with?
So, well, the brew type is called instant coffee. So, the average Salvadoran doesn't drink good coffee. The average
Really?
Salvadoran drinks instant coffee
Okay.
because most of them drink it, at the job, right? And so they're like, oh, okay, we got to get something quick. So, the you know, cafe listo, as they call it, right? Ready coffee. And so, I just add hot water. But
Gotcha.
that's starting to change though. And I think that 5, 10 years ago, you wouldn't see any specialty coffee shops in El Salvador, or if you did, there were very few. But now it's like, they're kind of starting to pop up, and people are starting to get educated about, the amazing quality coffees that they have in El Salvador, and like right next door, basically to you.
Do you
And
think that'll help push the specialty coffee too? Like, because I mean, I still feel even in the states here we have a lot of room to grow. I mean, I know California and the East Coast are kind of definitely specialty coffee driven, but really down here in the South and the Midwest, I mean, there's a lot of room to grow specialty coffee, and I can only imagine same thing down in Central America and South America and stuff like that. Like, do you feel if it catches on down there that it would make coffee kind of overall better, and like the farmers kind of produce better coffee? Or
absolutely. I mean, it's between trying to export a coffee and like having somebody buy it like that. That's an hour away from you. It's like, yeah, I'll buy you, just pick it up at the mill, right? So
yeah,
it's much easier. And I think that, if you increase that consumption, right, the access to the specialty coffee market will increase, right? And so that will disproportionately help small coffee producers, right? Let's say you're a small coffee producer, and you say, oh, you walk into a coffee shop and say, hey, listen, I have this great coffee, and I have maybe 5, 10 bags of it. Do you want it? And they're like, well, yeah. It's like, instead of them having to go to a roaster out in Europe or North America, that they have to come down and buy it. It's much easier. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Well, that's pretty cool. Does like El Salvador have a lot of room to kind of move into specialty coffee versus like commodity coffee?
Abs-
Or
Absolutely. I mean, most of the coffee that we consume in El Salvador, we import it from Nicaragua,
oh
or
wow, okay.
yeah, it's instant coffee. And so, I mean, if we were to just say we're going to stop importing coffee, we're going to drink our own coffee, I don't even think we would have enough coffee to drink. And so, I mean, we could really drive up the prices of coffee just in El Salvador by saying we're going to stop importing coffee.
Yeah, that's what I
And
was thinking kind of across the board down in, South America, Central America stuff. Like what I mean, if everybody just started drinking coffee down there, it would automatically increase the specialty coffee price, even for everybody. But I mean, obviously for the farmers and stuff too, what they'd be able to sell at that point. Do you ever feel there will be a tipping point where we sell more specialty coffee than commodity coffee, or is that you kind of don't see that as an importer?
I could see that. There's still a lot of things need to change.
Yeah.
So awareness is a big one. Second of all, it's convenience. So, I mean, we're like, for example, like instant coffee used to be associated with like horrible, like bitter, right? Bitter and syrupy coffee, right? But we're starting to see some really good instant arabicas, some really good instant specialty coffee. And even coffee that's made in
Oh, yeah, little pods. Yeah.
the little pouches, and you just kind of like add your water to it,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
or
Yeah, I've seen that
yeah,
too.
or even like coffee tea bags, kind of
Yeah.
like just kind of like steep your coffee. So I think that if you can get those, and you can really just introduce people to specialty coffee,
Yeah. Different
I mean,
methods and yeah.
like you're not introducing people to this new thing. It's like they're already drinking coffee. It's just that this coffee that we're offering them is it's higher quality beyond their dreams.
Yeah. definitely a lot of room to grow down here, especially where we're at. Because I mean, everybody drinks like super dark coffee, Folgers, and stuff like that. And it's like, man, if we could ever, because everybody that tastes specialty coffee, it's like they get it at that point, but it's like it's still so new even here. So yeah, it's just the whole education portion of it that kind of it's taken a while. So, well, dude, I don't know. You got anything else you want to talk about?
No, not really. I mean, I think that I just wanted to get my story out there and tell people, tell more people about Salvadorian coffee and why
Heck
it's
yeah, dude.
great. And
No, that's super cool. And I'll link all your stuff down there below too in YouTube, wherever it's all gonna be uploaded and stuff. So I'll link all that. And then your website. I was looking at your website. Did you build your website or somebody else do it?
yeah, I built my website.
Dude, it's a nice website. Props on that.
Shout out to Wix. Wix website builder.
Heck yeah, dude. It looked really good. So that's super cool. Dude, I can't believe you're only 18 and out there just getting at it, man. That's super cool.
World isn't gonna wait for you.
Nah, is not.
You gotta go out and do it. So
I definitely don't think you're gonna regret it later down the road either. So you're probably gonna definitely learn a lot through this whole experience as far as business and everything. So that's super cool, man. I guess with that being said, if you have anything you want to tell everybody before we leave, and then I'll go ahead and end it.
No, well, no, I mean, I just thanks for having me on. I mean, I think we'll definitely be expanding in the coming years. Right now we're looking at kind of expanding more in the US market, especially in upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire. So but it's still very new. Right now we only work in Canada, but if you want to get in contact with us, please, I promise I'll pick up or send me an email or whatever, and I'll get back to you. And yeah, drink Salvadorian coffee. Best coffee in the world.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Coffee Runs Deep podcast. And thank you, Mathias, for coming on and sharing your story and your love for El Salvador. The next episode is going to be a coffee roaster out of Florida. I'm super stoked on that. And if you want to support the show, there's a Patreon link below. That's always appreciated. Go hit up Mathias. His links are going to be below, and get some of that El Salvadorian yum yum. Later. Love y'all.